Everybody that's got a sandwich, get their sandwich and come and sit down. I'm Don Down, as you know, the mayor of the municipality, and Errol Knickle, your councillor for the area. And I can honestly say that we're more than honored to have our special guest with us today and deal with some of the issues that we had a meeting about just a few months ago. So I want to first introduce Suzanne Lonis-Croft, who is the MLA for Lunenburg, and Denise Peterson-Rayfuse is your MLA. There she is, right here. She got rum and coke coming up. Yep. And we want to welcome them. We got Heather McKenzie Carey, who's with Remo at the back, and she's works with all the municipalities in Lunenburg County. And we have John McCormick is here as well. As we met him, we had our meetings here just a few months ago. I want to also point out the Deputy Minister of Transportation is Paul LaFleche, and Paul will be participating a little bit later on in the meeting. And the man of the day, who was already spoke when we were over in Little Tancook Island, and Carol Green and Mary Beth and Fran and all of them were there. But I want to now introduce the Minister, Jeff McClellan, who is a friend for a long time, but he's a hard-working minister. He comes from Cape Breton. He understands all too well the importance of being able to have access. If they ever tore down the causeway and didn't have a ferry, they'd have a hard time to get off the island. Right. So it's the same kind of situation. And as we said to the minister before, there's no road off Tancook to the mainland, and there's only one way to get there, and we know how that is. And you know, Minister, the fact that you're here shows me, and I think shows all members of Little and Big Tancook, that you care. You're here to listen and hear what they have to be said, and hopefully have some answers to some of those issues. But you're concerned, and that's a big part of the step going forward. I think back in the 1990s, there was a young Minister of Transportation, a young Minister of Transportation that came over to the island. I don't know if there's been another Transportation Minister on the island since 1996. Has there been me?
98, I think, when you came back.
Yeah, 1998, I think, when I came back. Yeah. And so this is the first Minister of Transportation that came to the island since that time. And so it's not that he just, you know, I think that shows that he is really wanting to see what he can do to help make it work. So with any other fanfare, I'm now going to ask your MLA to just say a few words, and then we'll start the meeting up, and I'll have Jeff speak up.
I want to express my gratitude to everybody that's here today and everyone from both the islands. And it really does show that we do have a minister that cares. And what's unusual here today is that we have two political parties that are coming to the table. And I think that the approach that we are taking here is an approach that's refreshing for people, because normally, as you know, the political parties take every opportunity to be political, and that just often doesn't get you too far when you're trying to be restorative and plan for the future, because that's the key element for us here on the islands, is it's planning for the future and what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day and going forward. And rather than normally in politics, it's done on a political cycle for elections, and you all know that. So we're trying to break that pattern here. And I had offered to the minister to come to the islands, and he has kindly agreed, and same with Suzanne Lonis-Croft and the staff and the deputy minister to be here to work through this with you. We need to have you as part of this project going forward, and how do we strategize, how do we make sure that we can not only work on the immediate issues, but what do we need to do in order to realize at some point in time in the future a new ferry, and a ferry that is created and developed and designed for the needs of the islands, Big and Little Tancook Islands. So the next step in the new year will be the fact that we'll need to start meeting, and I've asked the communities to make a decision. I understand there's an expression of interest out there in order to find out who wants to sit on the committee going forward. We're looking at 3 people from Big Tancook Island and 2 representatives from Little Tancook Island. And then we will come together and start the process and how we move forward. And I want to thank the Minister very much, and Suzanne Lonis-Croft also, for being a part of that, because we are not going to be successful unless we work together. So that's the message of today. I want to thank the Minister. I can say personally how caring he is. He actually used to be my critic when I was the Minister of Community Services, and he was so nice to me, and we worked together so well. They took him away from that portfolio because they said you were not being mean enough to her. So I can say right from the start that we have an excellent working relationship, and that's only going to benefit Tancook, Big Tancook and Little Tancook Islands. So thank you very much.
Thank you to Don for being here with us and for moderating here today. Did you notice how when he was talking about the last minister, he said there was a young minister back there? He always gets that young part when he's talking about himself. So, only disappointment so far. I was hoping for a few more Leafs fans. I see a lot of Habs hats, so I don't know if I'll be.
I'm a Leaf fan.
I don't know. Okay, we got one here. That's it. So we're off to a good start, folks. It's been a great day so far. I know we're a little bit time crunched, but this is really an important conversation for all of us to have. It's been a great morning for me. You know, this is a situation and a problem that you have in your community that I've heard lots about. There's lots in the media. Again, Denise and I have had many conversations about this, and it's something that I'm aware of, no question about it. But it's not the same for me until I touch and feel and live it. So for me, as we were talking about this and talking to media and talking to staff who've been tremendous, Suzanne's been a great advocate for this side of the province. The staff giving me the details on the Ernst and on the whaler, and you know what the implications are for your folks, your community, your way of life. For me, it was about coming here today, having these conversations. So I mean this, I'm here to learn. This is a good beginning for me to look at your faces, see how this impacts your everyday life, hear what your suggestions are. I'll work again with my staff, who I'm very proud of, who I thank every day for being part of this process, and they're going to help us get to the next step. So it's a great thing, and folks, this is a beautiful community. I come from Glace Bay and Cape Breton, where beauty really is a lot of what our island is, but you take it for granted. And not suggesting you guys take it for granted, but when you're coming across the water for the first time, it's a pretty remarkable scene as you come up to the island. So it's a tremendous part of our province. We're very lucky to have this type of community set up, and you folks I know are happy to be from this island and this area, and that's why you're here to fight for the future. So it's a good thing. Again, with Denise and Suzanne, this is a working relationship. There's no room for politics in government, particularly in transportation, because there's never enough money. So you try to make good decisions with what you have and invest in the future, and that's what it's about. So we're not going to get in the blame game and who did what and when. This is about moving forward and setting a plan that you folks are happy with, that we can deliver. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to listen, and your stories really are essential to me, and this is how we understand exactly what's needed and what's required. As you know, the Ernst is back in service. We obviously came over on the Ernst today. Tremendous staff are on board, and good to see them in the back of the room, who are also Tancook residents. So good to see those folks, and they know it firsthand. We do, one of the things I heard a lot of was about the dissatisfaction with the whaler. So we can tell you that I'm sure you know the Ernst is going back into dry dock in May. At that time, we can ensure that it will be the Scotian that will be here as the replacement. And I thought that might be a little good news, but listen, that's not a celebration. I know there's lots more to come, but that's a step in the right direction. But there's a lot of conversations that we're going to have, folks, with our fleet. We have 9 vessels, 7 runs, but this is the key piece, and this is what I shared on Little Tancook with the residents and with Denise and Suzanne and all the time. You can really break it down, and this is in disrespect to the 4 operations that are in place that aren't essential. You know, Englishtown and Grand Narrows, they're good boats and they're important. LaHave, Country Harbor, no question, they add convenience, they add mobility to the communities, and they're important. What you have, and what the 2 ferries and Digby have, this is your highway. This is your lifeline. So I guess the key message for me, I understand, you know, what politicians and the perception that's in place of, look, they're going to do what they can and it's going to be cheap and they're going to tell us this and they're going to go away and we'll never hear from them again. That's not the case with this. This is how you live. So for us, we've got to make these decisions based on accommodating the lifestyle and the life that you guys have. So this is a highway, this is your lifeline. So for yourself and the people of Digby, we've got to look at, look at the overall structure of our ferry systems, the 7 runs, the 9 vessels, how they work, how we're moving in the replacement vessels, what those long-term costs look like, what the long-term plan looks like. So that's what we have to accomplish on your behalf. So this really is the beginning of this. I've learned in my time of the 14 months as transportation minister and the 3 years as MLA before that, the best way to get things done is to craft the plan that works and that is manageable and doable, and put it in the hands of government. And that's why a community group, to have these conversations, that's nonpartisan, that's non-biased, brings together the needs of the community. You'll have voices from the respective islands that come together, say this is what we need, this is what we want, this is the best we can do, this is what we'll accept, and we'll work within those parameters. But that's what this is about. This is about the community. We don't want to give up on the fact that the community still has a voice and they can bring things to politicians and to their governments. This is a very rural, remote community, and that's the lifeblood of Nova Scotia. So Halifax is important, and everyone's happy that when Halifax grows because it impacts our provincial economy. That's always good news. But we have to maintain and sustain the rural communities as well. It's true in Cape Breton, it's true in the Tancooks, it's true across the entire province. So that's the focus, that's why we're here. And from here on in, I'm going to give up with the speeches and I'm going to let you folks talk. And this is the beginning of a relationship that I think is going to be an important one. So again, I truly appreciate the welcome and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
The process is now is that we're going to turn the floor over to you, and this is your meeting. Paul LaFlèche, the Deputy Minister, is going to kind of pick the, as you have your hand up to ask a question, and he's going to throw it out to any staff if it's one of those kind of questions that are more to deal with the bureaucracy than the minister and so on and so forth. For those that weren't on Little Tancook, it was a very good presentation where the minister talked about the need for that wharf to be fixed. And and the deputy minister made it very clear at the meeting that they are negotiating with Ottawa, but Ottawa's got to come and step up to the table and fix the wharf. And when they fixed the wharf, the province was prepared to take over the wharf so that there's a longevity of that wharf will continue for the people of Little Tancook Island. And I thought that was a tremendous statement, and I think if they have a chance to say it again for this other record, it would be good. So we're going to turn it over to Paul and throw your questions out, and they'll be there to answer what you have to say.
Thank you. So I'll direct the questions. I do want to say just at the start that the minister and I discussed the lunch today. He really appreciates, he should say this himself, but I think he was busy talking about the ferry service. Really appreciates the offer that I think some of the people made on the island to provide a lunch, but we felt that it would be better if we sort of provided the lunch so that you could focus on the meeting and the issue at hand. And we'll come back another day because we're all big fans of lobster sandwiches. Where that's where it's going to be. And we know that some of you are involved in that business. We'd really love to come back. And so in a future day, we appreciate the offer, but we thought we'd just bring the lunch. And I know that this government is working very hard on your behalf to try and get a better price for your lobster. We saw a poor guy trying to fix his engine out there. You just come in on Little Tancook. It's a tough job, and we wish you all the best in that. So with that, can I take that first question?
Okay, we were told by Mr. Makrovich in September, and Mr. McLean the minister just told us again that in May, the earnings is going to be going away. So is there a schedule of what is to be done, and how long is it going to be gone?
So let me answer first at a high level, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Makrovich. At a high level, as the minister said, we have about 7 ferries, and we've got and then of course we've got a backup ferry, the Scotian, and hopefully we'll have a second backup because we're just about to let the tender out to construct a new ferry for Digby, and that means we'll have a second very good backup in service. But on the other hand, we do have mechanical breakdowns and other issues, and we have to move things around. So I think what the minister just said is that his priority for moving things around will be ensure that island service is given a higher priority than drive around, because if you can drive around, you have another avenue. So we may have made a little bit of a logistical error in the past, and it's you know, no one's fault. We're trying to do our best in not paying attention to that. And as Minister said, he doesn't want to discriminate against anybody. But if you can drive around, at least you can get there. It may take you another half an hour, but you can't drive to the island. At least not unless you have one of those German drive cars that they made in the 1950s, for those of you who remember those. So it's not easy to get there. So we've got to make sure that the boat that services the 3 island routes, and there's 2 in Digby, are in fact the priority in the future. Now, I know that we'll take a little bit of heat about that, you know, at Le Havre and Englishtown, because it's like making them second class, but the minister was careful to say it's not that they're second class, it's that the island service really counts. So with that, maybe I can pass it over to John to tell us what is the schedule for servicing, why are we doing that, and what's the backup plan here?
Okay, because the Ernst is a passenger ferry, we're required
Can
to
you
drive.
speak up, darling?
How come I wasn't a darling?
Because you spoke very well loud.
Okay.
We're required, because the Ernst being a passenger ferry, we have to dry dock her every 2 years. We're going to be moving her into dry dock this May. The length of time right now, I hate predicting anything because my predictions never come true. But we're hopeful that it'll be out for 2 months or less. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We're going to overhaul her other engine, redo her transmission. I've given in to Transport Canada, or the department has given in to Transport Canada. We're going to put the bulkhead in so we can raise our passenger limit up and get us back to so that will create some time. Plus, we also have to see what's going on with the vessel. Once you get her up out of the water, we get to check her rudders. I have to put 2 new propellers on, which I promised to do since last summer. So we'll have the propellers. I want to put a new crane on her. So we'll have the new crane operating on her. And it'll be the type of crane that if somewhere down the road we decide we don't want the Ernst anymore, I'll be able to take it off and move it to another vessel to use it that way. So I'm trying to think ahead in the way we're planning the repairs for this ship. Another thing that I want to do, because of the age of the ship, I want to go over her electrical too at the same time. So, you know, we're talking engine overhaul, new transmission, bulkhead, electrical, we got to check her rudders, her propeller shafts, new propellers, and then we got to check out her body.
Her hull.
Okay, yeah, her hull, to make sure that's okay. You know, so if there's any dings or bangs in there, that would have to be cropped out, cut, you know. Hopefully there's no bent frames. We're not picking up anything like that right now. We're hoping that she's going to be fine in that way. So hopefully we could be in there 6 to 8 weeks and get her in and out. After the first of the year, I'll be preparing the tender for her, get it out the tender. And if I can get her going sooner, I'm going to try and get her going sooner. Now, the replacement ferry will be the Scotian. The Scotian, as a matter of fact, may be on the dock when we come around. She's moving her way back up to Digby now. I need to get her up there so I can get the Princess off, put her on the blocks. And then once that's done, I'm sailing her back here, and she's going to be your ferry up until we take the Ernst off, and then she'll go into service. When we look at forward planning, what my key is for our whole group is once the new ferry comes into service into Digby, we will go and take the Joe Casey off, and she'll be the spare, and then the Scotian will be this. It'll be tied up here, and so you'll have 2 ferries here, so we'll have a proper backup all the time.
Hey, hey.
I just want to point out, though, John said we've given up on the battle with the federal government, but you know, we can do it relatively easy during the regular dry dock. But I haven't given up with the battle. I'm just a bit worried that long term they're always coming up with some issue, and it's causing inconvenience for all of our ferry system. So I am going to be dealing with the federal deputy. I've already talked to him, and you know, we've had a conversation about going back with our team and building a relationship so we don't get surprises like we got here in terms of certification. Wasn't very happy with that. So we haven't given up on the larger issue of the relationship with the federal government and some inspector suddenly having an issue that inconveniences you. We want a lot of warning on these issues. and it's got to be a serious safety issue. It can't be something they just figured out and they want to nickel and dime us on red tape. Okay,
Plan
next
for
question.
repair of the Chester Wharf?
The Chester Wharf is owned by who? That's the first question.
That's ours.
Ours, okay.
Jason, is there any problem with the Chester Wharf?
A little long in the tooth.
But is there any, I mean, I'm a little long in the tooth.
For repair.
Right, Docking. What's the problem?
The last time she was surveyed underneath, she's fine as come.
What's the origin of the question? Why are you asking?
Well, because like, if you go up to Chester and you look over the side of the wharf, there's chunks of wood falling off of it, and there's one part of the wharf that's settled down quite a bit there on where the key part of it is. If you look, you'll see it there settled down. They filled it in with a little cement to sort of make a little ramp so it wasn't a big bump to have to bump up over every time. But it's obviously, it's getting deteriorated. So, I mean, if the wharf in Chester goes to pieces, what's a ferry and what's our wharf's going to be any good for?
Okay, can we just commit to have a look at that? We're not aware of it, although I must say that 18 months ago I had managed to fall off the Chester Wharf, but it was for other reasons, I think, than there was a pub nearby, and anyway. So, but is there a second question?
Yes, there is. This summer when the Scotian comes,
Yeah.
Scotian is 31 years old.
Right.
She's getting to be an old vessel. Old vessels break. If she breaks, what is your plan for temporary till she's repaired?
I guess we'd have to go back to Walter.
Okay, if you go back to Walter, are you still going to be using our floating dock? Or are you going to try to put in a little float of your own to use? Because in the summertime, there's a lot of boats that lay to that dock. And it's going to cause a real inconvenience for us.
We'll have to look into that.
Okay.
Yeah, that one, yes.
Yeah, I was just down on that floating dock. That's pretty rough. I mean, you know.
It's not safe.
No, not at all. I think, look, it's one of those things, this is something we kind of learn over time, but we don't want to go too far down the road with hypotheticals for us. I mean, we're looking at this 2-month window. John's right, anytime you give a timeline and a price, you miss it and you look like you're not doing your homework. So you want to be cautious, but the Scotian's been, it's been very important as a replacement for us. I think that, we're going to look at the whole fleet again and how we do these things. There's no question, the one obvious fact was that you guys were not happy with that service. So we've got to do our best, and the Scotian seems to be a suitable replacement for that. We've got the Scotian in place for those amount of weeks that the Ernst is out, and hopefully we have a little bit of good fortune, and you don't want to go down the road of if that goes, but we'll make a plan then. But you're absolutely right. Having seen that dock that you've walked on, that's that's a concern.
Mr. McLean, wasn't that we weren't happy. It was inadequate to give us a service.
Yeah.
The thing about the Scotian is, the Scotian, if you get somebody that can run it, this is the biggest problem. You get somebody that can run it, that can handle the boat. If you get somebody that can run it, the Scotian will far serve us better than what the William G. Ernst will. Because if you want to bring over a big truck, you can put a big truck because there's more room to be able to put it aboard. If you want to bring a big long trailer, you can put a big long trailer aboard of it. It's far more suitable than what the ferry we have now. So it would be just as good as what we got now or better.
I'm a resident here. I was the president of the Harbor Authority when we did the reconstruction of the wharf, and one of the things that we did is there was 1.7 million spent on our wharf plus 165,000 provincial. And one of the things that they did is they put in a ramp designed specifically for the Scotian that cost $65,000. Now the old ferry crew used to use it. The new ferry crew has not been trained and don't have the confidence to use the Scotian on that ramp. So therefore, used to the residents of the island, we looked at the Scotian coming every couple of years, and that was our chance to get things like gravel trucks and all that big stuff out to the island. I understand because I've been involved in operating barges for years. They're hard to operate. There's a real confidence adjustment for people that are operating it. If the Scotian comes, the people that either have to bring a captain that's confident with it, to operate it so people can get stuff out here, or we've got to train the crew that's here to use the Scotian. Because there's been a lot of money spent to give us that service that has now been cut off, even if the Scotian is here. So anyway, it's just over to the floor. I don't want to be too critical here, but there's been...
No, I don't think you're being critical.
Yeah, I don't want to be critical.
We'll make a note of it because this is something that we need to see in the future.
Yeah, and it's...
if I have to leave a ship handler from Digby area over here with the ship until my guys are confident, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
I'd just like to applaud the two levels of government that showed up here today and for the work that I know you've done in preparing for this. I question why have we not had a federal representative? I understand that invitations were extended to them. Does anyone know of any replies that indicated why they weren't planning on showing up?
Yes, I've talked to both, I don't know if the minister, did you talk to any of them?
No.
I talked to both your MP, Gerald Keddy, a week ago, and he indicated he would be in Parliament. But I did say, you know, you have a personal invite to go. We're leaving at this time, and we'd love to have you with us. And he didn't send anybody. I did talk to the Regional Director General of Fisheries and Oceans Canada concerning the Little Tancook. There was no invitation, I don't think. You would know, because I think you asked her to come to this island to deal with the ferry. It was to deal with the wharf, which they own and they're responsible for. So she indicated to me in 2 calls that she would not be sending anybody.
Well, it's regrettable because our wharf over there is crucial for our transportation to and from the mainland, as everyone knows, and it's owned by the federal government. And for them not to show up at a meeting such as this, even though they were invited, is quite disappointing. I was hoping that maybe somebody could indicate that they had an excuse for not coming or why they weren't coming. But, normally they send a delegate if they can't come personally.
Well, we've been in discussions with them, I think Dan has. And Dan, did you talk to them about coming, or?
No, they made no indication they were able to.
I tried also, and I tried to make the suggestion that perhaps a representative could be sent, but I didn't get anywhere either, as you see. But as we were discussing on Little Tancook, one of the things that we have to do as a community coming together is take the window of opportunity that is going to be presented to you during the federal election and leading up to that, and be very prepared before that election takes place. I mean, it's just being honest and frank that, as you know, during election time, things can be a little bit different in terms of commitments that are made just prior to it. So, and many people know that throughout the province, throughout Canada, and that's why those who are very prepared to make those asks and put those pressures on. So the only way we're going to do that is from the community level. That's who they're going to listen to. And there will probably be candidate debates and all sorts of opportunities with media inquiries, that if we're well prepared, that those questions become prevalent as part of the upcoming federal election.
It's historically very common that different levels of government transfer assets between each other or to community associations. That's normal. But the protocol for those transfers is that the asset is either 100% restored or the amount of money to 100% restore it is transferred. I've done many of these. I've done with the federal government. The federal government does them every day all over Canada, and that's what we're discussing with the federal government, but we have no indication yet that they're anywhere near restoring that asset to any sort of capacity. So those discussions Dan is leading, and they'll be ongoing, and we'll keep having them. But that's the condition that either the mayor or the province, the minister, would have, and that's a normal condition that is fulfilled in Quebec, Ontario, British Columbia, New Brunswick, and even elsewhere in Nova Scotia. So we don't understand why this would be a different case.
Tancook is that we all have a responsibility to inform the federal level. I've written a number of letters to Gerald already on Little Tancook Island. I think they might have been circulated around, and we'll continue to put the pressure on. But whatever you can do, clearly, to bring this to the awareness of them, the issue is if you don't have a wharf that is workable and that that's safe, then you're not going to have a ferry that's going to be able to go to it. And the province has said that they will look after the wharf when it's fixed. So if you want to have a long-term commitment of access from Little Tancook to the mainland, then you got a little battle ahead of you. And I hope you stand up and do something with it, because we all got to do it together.
Well, you do it together. You do have a battle, but if you let the federal government off a decrepit asset of a dike for $1, and then offering various amounts of cash, they eventually, things happened, as the mayor just suggested here, in timing, and they eventually went out and fixed that dike. They did the same thing in Gabaroos. So sometimes it takes a little bit of a struggle, but if you give them an easy pass, they're not going to do it.
And the Scotian, with the bulkhead being placed into it and the capacity coming back up, is that going to relax the wave and wind restrictions?
Yeah.
We're still going to be stuck with that.
Yes. And I don't think it's a matter of being stuck. It's a matter of safety.
Stuck if you live in this part of it.
Well, it's safety also, and that's what we're looking for.
But it was like that for 30-some years.
Well,
and now it's not because of new regulations.
Right.
So what about the Scotian? Is that also?
That I have to check on. I don't know what kind of ticket I'm going to get on that.
Jason mentioned last time, I think that it was even less than the.
I don't know what kind of restrictions they're going to put on the Scotian. But right now, when the Scotian operates out in Digby, there is no restriction on it.
That's right.
So
there's no restriction on anything.
Right. That's captain's discretion.
Well, you know, I like the NERMS and all, but if the Scotian's going to give us the capacity and restriction, I'll go with Scotia. I think everybody here would, wouldn't you?
Pretty much.
Jason, you don't think they'll put a wind, will they put a wind restriction on the Scotia?
What's the capacity of the Scotian? 75, 95, 100?
I believe it's 75.
So we're already down again. But we're a bit higher than Walter, but we're not what we were.
But I have to, because there's other ways where I can change with the capacity based on the crew size, so I have to check it out.
Okay, next.
Yep. I quite well, this is one of my kind of concerns. But anyway, when we get an easterly wind and you're using Halifax Harbor and approaches Boy, which is 48 miles from here, as the indicator of when to shut the ferry down. We're sitting in the lee of the Appomattox Peninsula, and I brought my bag with me today, and in my bag there's 4 receipts for the Comfort Inn in Bridgewater at $120 a pop, where I got left ashore 3 times last year and 1 time already this year. It's not a small issue for us, and people that have gone to sea all their life look out and say there's no wind action, there's no wave action in Mahone Bay, but yet they're shutting the ferry down. We need a wind generator in Mahone Bay telling us what the wind is in Mahone Bay, don't care what it is in Halifax and Harbor and approaches, and somehow we've got to get the federal government or the provincial government pushing the federal government to get a wind generator here. They're not that expensive. You can get one on the ship. You can get one on the Ernst to tell you what the wind is in Mahone Bay before you shut it down, which must satisfy the Department of Transportation. And it's just, we have people on the island that they get up every morning and they look at the weather to see whether they're going to go to town for the day, just in case the wind comes up, they cancel going to town. They're canceling medical appointments, they're canceling all that kind of stuff. It's not a simple thing like people seem to think it is. It changes what we do out here drastically.
The kids are cut off from school.
The kids stop going to school.
Or they stuck on the other side, can't come back at night. You gotta make arrangements that the kids are there. They're out of school, but they can't come back because the boat's is sitting there.
2 years ago, the kids went to school on Monday to a Halloween concert or party, wearing their Halloween costumes, and didn't come back till Wednesday still wearing their Halloween costumes. It's not a simple thing like, oh, we missed a ferry. It was shut down for 2 days and they were stuck ashore.
So we're going to, as I said, we've given up on the bulkhead issue, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But we're continuing discussions with the federal government, as John indicates, on all of these other issues and the grandfathering issue, which we're not satisfied with. It may solve some of this, we may not solve it, but we're going to continue those discussions. And we'll, you know, I don't know, I don't understand the measuring of the wind issue and who shuts that down or who measures that and where it's measured. We'll find out more about that. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. I just saw he's raising his microphone.
You're lucky you're not in an auction, you're in a box.
Yeah, you need the box up. Tell your wife not to let you there. Okay, other questions? Yes.
I'd like to see more fire drills in the ferry, because I recently had to put on a life jacket at 6 o'clock the other morning, and the other passenger didn't know how to put theirs on. They would have drowned had something been happening for sure. And I was able to get mine on with a struggle. And I blew the whistle, which got on their nerves, because I blew the whistle, and I said, I need help. And it's humorous, yes, but the other person couldn't get theirs on. I mean, people sat there and laugh and take it for granted, but I think they should have more fire
So that's an
drills.
important thing. You know, some people are laughing here because we have too many fire drills in our office building. It's the opposite, but a lot depends on the local, you know, the person who's in charge of that. So John, do you know about that issue? Fire drills?
Those drills are done every week.
Every week.
Every week.
But I mean to show people how to put the life jackets like they did years ago, to come in the cabin and actually hands-on type thing, not just out back with your hose.
Let me ask the question a different way. Rather than having a fire drill and you may or may not be on the boat, is there a way that like once a year we could come to the community center and show people or open the boat and say, here's how we get the life jackets on, here's how we do it. So it's not really a fire drill, but it's educating the community, because if it's just a fire drill, you may not be there at that time learning.
Right, right.
I think another way that you can solve this too, if you're not clear on how to put on a life jacket, please ask the crew
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah.
You know,
But I have always watched and seen, so I was the lucky person. But the other person in the seat didn't have a clue of what to do.
So if you know of anybody who's traveling on one of our, on the vessel,
I'd be happy to show
instruct them,
someone.
you know, to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions? I know that these ladies over here have something to say. Do we want to give them a chance? Sure. Okay.
I expect most people know that we solicited through a group email from Future of Tancook that we would receive impact statements for people who might want to express their questions or concerns by writing instead of by speaking in the public, because that's not everybody's comfort zone. So I just wanted to take a minute and kind of share with you what we got from that process. So in all, there are, I think, 19 people that shared things with us. We've included in this packet the things that we received prior to the September meeting. And the package is, for your information, is organized simply by alphabetical order by last name. So there's no bias in any way in how the information is presented. And Jeff, you'll notice on the cover that I changed your name to Kevin when I read it. So, if you want me to speak with your mother and straighten that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Especially before Christmas, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So if you just bear with me, I'd like to share the contents of some of these comments. So from Kenneth Cook, that's Hilda Wilson's son-in-law, I think. He sent this much writing that in brief terms says that the ferry service is very important to the community. In the summer, they had a contractor replacing siding on their property here on the island, and the disruption in ferry schedule in August impacted that contractor's ability to do the work that he was hired to do. He goes on to say that the island is a gem, and it's been advertised through the efforts of the island to create a story about tourism through our website and through our Facebook page. And he thinks that our island offers unique tourism experience to those who come here, and I think everybody agrees with that. He thinks it would be very sad if tourists stopped coming to the island. And he also speaks about the families of all ages who live on the island, and how generally just that the disruptions in ferry service are causing disruptions to these families. And he just asked us to share his comments with you. The next message that's here is from Diane Crooks, who I think most people know who that is. She owns the little house over by Bonnie's, or is a part owner at least. And she expresses her disappointment that the government has allowed things to get to this state, that public transportation to the islands is not a frivolous luxury, that what matters most now is not issuing blame or accusing fingers, but to find a solution to the problem. Furthermore, she believes that long-term planning and implementation of a long-term solution is what's needed. She has a series of questions here that I'm not going to go through. She believes that, again, she reiterates that being proactive is important. The next comment is from Bonnie Cross. She says, some things that I've been thinking about lately. She makes the observation that the ferry service was canceled according to commentary going on Twitter for 42 days. And she wonders how long a person will be able to keep a job if they miss 42 days of work. And she expresses concern for seniors who need to get to doctor's appointments and those who find it too difficult to get on and off the eastern points on the floating dock and to climb over the side of the boat, etc. And then moving on to the next comment was also from Bonnie. Earlier in November, she was writing to Denise, and she expressed her concern or observation that there seemed to be only one mechanic working on the Scotian, and maybe that's accurate or not, but that's what was understood in the community at that time. And also concerned that English Town Ferry seemed to be getting more attention in terms of alternate service from the Scotian. She also wondered how the province would think that they would provide the boom truck to the Scotian when it came here, when it had been discharged or sent to Boston with the provincial Christmas tree for the city of Boston, which is an interesting point. And then Rosa Cross gave us a number of paragraphs, and she wonders about the impact of the outages of ferry service on the elementary school. She talks about how in 2010 we received a grant here from the federal government, and part of what was required of us as a community was that we would study our community and prepare a strategic plan for our community, much of which focused on developing tourism, and which we did through the tourism website and so on. And that work all seems to be falling apart because we can't sustain it.
Mary Beth, I'm just wondering, the ferry leaves in 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't watching the time.
Okay. was, and not to be disrespectful, but the
Yep.
minister can read those.
Yes.
And I think they got the sentiment of the
Yep.
issues of living on an island
Yep.
and the impact it has. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I have concerns here in the community about the communication when the ferry is out, communication about the effects of impending weather forecasts on ferry service, and we are wondering if there could be some concerted effort, focused effort made to improve communications.
So let's ask Dan, how is that done now?
I put out a public advisory, we update 511. I don't know if you folks are aware of it, but if you can, what is it, tweet?
My Twitter, yes.
Twitter. You can Twitter 511 now, right to your phone. And so if there's any change or any information comes out about the service, it'll automatically go right to your phone.
Okay, but can I ask a different, is there some central communication thing here on the island? Does that exist?
No.
There's no website that everybody goes to look at something?
Some
No.
people don't even have computers.
They don't even have computers. Okay, so there's no way to do it like that. So,
John puts it an advisory to our internal staff as well, which would be the exact same information that goes
Right.
out to Twitter. So if there was a list of email addresses or some group that could be formed, it could be circulated that way as well.
Paul,
yeah.
for traffic information, is that what the 511 is?
Yeah.
Why couldn't there be a bulletin on that, so that if somebody wanted to, they could dial 511? And
It's not there.
There is.
you can?
Yes, I guess it wasn't known. So maybe we'll just publicize that a little better. And maybe we could put down at is it down at the wharf? Do we have a notice board we could put that on? And say, here's where you can find out the info.
511, number 1, number 4.
We got the communication expert back here with the department.
Now I get the weather warnings, which I get through Environment Canada. I email them, and you get a lot of them, and they go through to a couple of key people on the Batira organization. So that's a good way to start. That if we wanted to spread that out in another way, so that I have one point of contact.
Involve Heather with part of that communication staff.
Folks, very quickly, thank you so much for opening up your community to me. It's a flattering thing coming from where I come from to be able to do this on a daily basis. We get the problems, we're listening. Every letter, every call, everything you send through to Denise, Suzanne, the municipality, I get it. I hear it, it comes to me, and I take it seriously. So this is not a situation where we whisk in and whisk out, you don't see us again. We're going to be part of this. Next time, though, I want the lobster, so let's get it. Thank you very much.